Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about two words that, let's be honest, can sound a little dull: structure and consistency. But what if I told you they're not about creating a rigid, joyless schedule? What if they're actually the invisible anchor that gives our kids the foundation they need to absolutely thrive in a pretty chaotic world?
Just think about that for a second. We tend to celebrate being spontaneous, right? But for a child who's still figuring out how everything works, predictability is, well, it's like a superpower. It hands them the security and the confidence they need to go out, explore, learn, and just grow. So we're going to flip that idea of boring on its head.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with what we're calling the predictability power up. Then we'll get clear on the difference between structure and consistency. We'll explore the four huge pillars of growth they support. I'll give you a practical playbook you can actually use. And finally, we'll talk about the reality of finding that balance. Let's do this.
Okay, let's dive right in. First things first, structure versus consistency. It is so important that we get on the same page with these terms because, we often use them interchangeably, but they are definitely not the same thing. Here's the simplest way to think about it. Imagine structure is the blueprint for your house. It's the what and the when. It tells you where the walls go, when dinner happens, when bedtime is. Consistency, then, is the how. It's the reliable construction crew that shows up every single day to actually follow that blueprint. One without the other doesn't really work. So what does structure actually look like day to day? Well, it's that predictable flow. It's the simple fact of knowing that after school we have a snack and after dinner it's time for a bath. It's the house rules written down on the fridge. It's even knowing where the toys go when we're done playing. It's basically the map that helps a child navigate their world without feeling lost. And consistency, that's the engine that makes the map useful. It means that the rule about no screens before homework is true on Monday, and it's still true on Friday, even when everyone's tired. It means all the caregivers, parents, grandparents, babysitters, are singing from the same song sheet. You've got to have that united front, because without consistency, even the most beautiful structure just kind of crumbles. So, why are we talking about all this? What's the big deal? Well, because when you combine structure with consistency, you create this incredible ripple effect that supports a child's development across four really essential pillars of growth. This is where it all comes together. First up, the psychological benefits are just massive. When a kid's world is predictable, they feel safe. It's that simple. And that sense of security lowers stress and frees up so much mental energy. Instead of constantly worrying about what's coming next, their brain can focus on learning, on developing cognitive skills, and on figuring out how to manage those big, overwhelming emotions. It's the launchpad for independence. And it's not just in their heads. You can literally see the physical benefits. A consistent bedtime routine is like magic for establishing healthy sleep patterns, which are so crucial for a growing brain and body. Regular meal times can lead to better eating habits, and building in predictable time for play makes sure they're getting the physical activity they need. It all connects. Now that solid foundation at home, it totally translates to their social world. When they understand predictable rules at home, it helps them make sense of social rules on the playground. That reliable care they receive helps them build the secure, trusting relationships they need to develop empathy and eventually learn how to work through conflicts. And you guessed it, this all pays off big time in the classroom. A kid who comes from a structured home often has better focus. They start to develop time management skills way earlier. All of this leads to stronger learning habits and, yep, more positive behavior at school. It really sets them up for success. Okay, that was a lot of the why. Now for the fun part, the how. Let's get super practical. How can you actually start building this supportive framework in your own home, maybe even starting today, without feeling totally overwhelmed? So check this out. It's a really simple but incredibly effective example of an after-school routine. The genius is in the flow. It meets their immediate needs, right? Come in, unpack the bag, get a snack. But then it balances that downtime, that crucial free play, with responsibilities like homework and chores. You could even make a little chart with pictures for younger kids. The key isn't this exact routine, but having a predictable sequence they can count on. Now for the rules. My best advice, keep it simple. Less is more. A few clear, age-appropriate rules are way better than a long, confusing list. But here's the crucial part. Explain the why behind the rule. A kid is so much more likely to get on board if they understand it's about keeping them safe or being kind. And then, and this is the hard part, you've got to enforce them consistently, every single time. And this is so important to remember. This whole thing has to grow and evolve right along with your kid. It is not one size fits all. For toddlers, we're talking super simple routines, maybe those visual charts, and really immediate consequences. When they get to elementary school, you can bring in more complex things like chores and more logical consequences. And for teens, the goal shifts. It's about collaborating with them on the rules, focusing on helping them build their own self-regulation and independence.
Okay, now let's all just take a deep breath. Because living this out in the real, messy world, it's not so simple. The goal here is not to become some rigid drill sergeant. It's about providing a supportive framework that can bend without breaking.
I mean, life happens, right? Schedules are insane. Sometimes parents don't agree on the rules. And kids, they will absolutely push back. That's kind of their job. Then you throw in major life changes or just good old-fashioned parental burnout, and it gets tough. These challenges are not a sign that you're failing. They are a totally normal part of the process.
And I love this quote from our source material. It just says, "Be kind to yourself. Perfection isn't the goal." There are going to be days when the whole routine goes right out the window, and that has to be okay. It's all about progress, not perfection. It's about what you do most of the time, not all of the time.
If you take one thing away, let it be this. The goal is a stable foundation, not a rigid prison. It should feel like a safe home base they can always return to. And honestly, knowing when to be flexible is a skill in itself. That spontaneous trip for ice cream doesn't shatter the foundation. You know what it does? It teaches resilience. It teaches kids how to adapt to the wonderful, messy unpredictability of life.
So as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with this one question. Don't feel like you have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Just think about one thing. What is one small, consistent routine you could build with your child starting tomorrow? Maybe it's just reading one book together before bed, or always putting their dish in the sink after a meal. Because that powerful foundation we've been talking about, it's built one small, predictable, and loving step at a time. Thanks for joining me.